Shalom. Kol halalim na Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham Rakakwadash. Brakti Yahweh, Brakti Hawshai, Brakti Yahweh, Brakti Hawshai, Brakti Yahweh, Brakti Hawshai Bahasham Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Okay, and peace and blessings to the elect, the 144,000, the elect, and the 1/3 elect men, women, and children. Okay, peace and blessings to your households, whoever you may be, wherever you're scattered to the four corners of the earth. Okay, pursuant to Deuteronomy 28, verse 64, scattered to the four corners of the earth. Now, I just wanted to, I was thinking about this term, the saying or the term, one life to live, or YOLO, you only live once. And I thought about that, with a little understanding that you have. Obviously, we're not opened up to all the greater knowledge as you would be if you are part of that number to be, if you are part of that number to be changed the first time around. You're going to get that knowledge anyway, but the first time around is, for whoever the elect are going to have, it's a beautiful experience. So, nevertheless, we're not open up to that knowledge yet. But the term YOLO, or you only live once, So those individuals that subscribe to this saying, because especially if you understand death and life, and with a little understanding that we have through the Spirit, that you come back again and again and again and again. All right, a lot of Israelites, that wanted to escape slavery, they thought, okay, if I kill myself or if I jump into the ocean with sharks or whatever, you would have to come back again in slavery because you come back every third or fourth generation. Sometimes the Lord brings you back sooner, for whatever specific reason the Lord Yahweh Shemesh has chosen for you to come back sooner. All right, and sometimes when you do wicked in your previous lifetime, you come back in a horrific manner. You could be conjoined twins. You could have you could be real hideous to look at. You could be you could be 700 pounds of your whole life. You could be living out of a bed. Um, you know, you could come back as a mo. Because the Lord, punishes you for your past wrongdoings. Because Galatians 6 verse 7, you reap what you sow. All right, so there's no escaping from judgment. So that's why you individuals out there that like to ponder, thinking, what did that child do? What did that child do? He's born like that. What did he do? Then you blame on the devil, not understanding what even the devil means and all that. But I'm not going to go on that because I'm going to start deviating into a different direction. All right. So you come back, okay, again and again and again, okay, because the soul is energy. The spirit, okay, those specific number of souls are always going to be here for eternity. You understand? And there's only the Lord Yahweh Shemashah that can, take away your soul and your flesh, Otherwise, souls are eternal and they always come back in another body. Even when the Edomites are done away with after 1,000 years worth of slavery, they're going to come back as other nations. Some, some can come back as Elamites, some can come back as Ishmaelites, some can come back as Moabites, some can come back as Ammonites. But the Edomite spirit will be unalived. Okay, that Edomite look, that abominable look that they have, a cave monkey look, right, will be eliminated. Okay. Yes, there'll still be light skinned and different shades and different hair textures. Yeah, of course, because we're a diverse looking nation anyway. If you look at 12 tribes, on this side, you know, we're going to have that. But that pale, leprous look, where there's no melanin, not even you know, a little bit of a light shade or a tan or whatever, naturally, of course, that pale look is going to be eliminated. All right. But Jake's still going to be different shades of brown, man. But the Edomite look will be gone. Okay. And the Edomite itself will be gone. All right. So you come back again and again and again, even the wicked. All right. Now, this term, you only live once. Now, I was looking at the images when I typed it in, right? Usually, this term is going to be more of an Edomite thing, where you might see the odd visible Jake, what you think is a Jake. For some of these, Jake is just told to say it so they can influence other Jakes. Especially if they're successful in sports or music or TV shows, they're going to do that. The same way you got that. Who's that UK rapper, the tall, lanky? I think he's Nigerian or guy, West African Jake, whatever his name is, man. The tall, lanky guy, who did the commercial with McDonald's, trying to promote that bullshit food amongst the community. The same way they'll do it for $1, man. So they put their face on these quotes. You've only got one life and you have to live it. Take every single lesson as a learning one. All right. Yeah, you take every lesson, every single thing that you learn as a learning one, but you don't have one life to live, man. All right. You come back many times. Now, for the most part, this is many Edomites saying these quotes, and it is an old school term. It goes back to the 19th century, I believe, with a little bit of research that I did. But it's a term, like do what thou wilt. Do what thou wilt is the whole of the law. I think that's Alistair Crowley thing, which basically means do what you want. Which is basically, if you look at it, do what you want, right? So there is no law. So the only law is that there is no law. Basically, saying that do what you want. One life to live. What does that correlate to? Satanism, right? Esau says one life to live. Why does Esau say one life to live? Because they know they're going into slavery afterwards. All right. So if they deleted themselves 100 years ago, they probably would come back in a lifetime, which would be so-called, I would say, in quote marks, so-called safe for them, where they don't have a chain around their neck. All right. But this quote, if you look at it spiritually, okay, it's mainly Edomites saying it because they know, all right, okay, that they've only got mainly, especially nowadays, and they probably started saying this mainly in the 19th century. They knew that, okay, yeah, all right, this ain't like the 1400s anymore, whatever. This is the 19th century, and we are going to be, they're pushing that quote, one life to live. You only live once, because they know that their next lifetime, right, or soon to come, will be in slavery. Obviously, 19th century up until now, 3-4 generations, they could still come back, and Esau could be still so-called safe, but they could be living in hell. So each time these Edomites that are well-to-do come back, right, it gets worse and worse and worse for them. That's why Esau always says one life to live, or YOLO, you only live once, because they know if they've got it good in that specific lifetime, right, they may have it good in the next lifetime, but they also know that very soon to come, they're going to be going into slavery. And this, especially the elites know that. That's why they push that spirit amongst everyone, one life to live. Right? That's why they push it. Because they know that what they have is only for a short duration, for a certain number of lifetimes. They know that. And they also know that, the Lord could have it where they die, and the Lord could, like, the Hashem could do whatever he wants. He could make it come back earlier. He could make it come back later. The Lord could hold you until you actually genuinely wake up in chattel slavery once Yahweh Shemeshah's kingdom is on planet Earth and beyond. Esau knows that they have short time. All right, as I'm paraphrasing the scripture, the Lord Yahweh Shemeshah has set bounds it cannot pass. All right, let's actually just read that. was just thinking about these terms. The Lord has set bounds he cannot pass. Yeah, I like this. Job 14:5. Person's days are determined. You have decreed the number of his months and have set limits he cannot exceed. That's new in the international version. Let's go New Living Translation. You have decided the length of our lives. You know how many months we will live, and we are not given a minute longer. Job 14 and verse 5. Yeah. Esau has given a certain minute to live. They know that. All right. They know that. They cannot go past that. That's why they emphasize on that you only live once. All right. But with Jacob, our kingdom's going to be eternal. Since his days are determined, the number of his months is with you. You have appointed his limits so that he cannot pass. All right, King James Version. Seeing his days are determined, the number of his months are with thee. Thou hast appointed his bounds that he cannot pass. All right, okay, because we're trying to build up our spiritual wealth, man. All right, however you can do it. All right, all right, because we're trying to build treasures in heaven. Okay, we don't let nothing come in the way of whatever uh, level of knowledge that Yahweh Hashem wants to give you. You know, you try and earn your spiritual treasures. All right. We always knew that we come back again and again and again. That's a spiritual thing most Jakes know, even before the truth. I knew that. All right. But we're coming to a time where we're going to be in rulership. Okay. We're the real eternals. All right. Our kingdom is for eternity. Okay. You seen the cartoon Adam? Sorry, not Adam. He-Man, the classic one. Adam goes darker, doesn't he, when he gets his power? That's Jake. Jake is a real Adama, which means from the soil. Wasn't Jake made from the dust of the ground? We're the real Eternals. Eternia. Where did Adam live in the cartoon? I have the power. Who's that? That's Jake. Adama, Adam. All right, but obviously they show an Edomite look with yellow hair. That's not the real look of Adam. That cartoon should be everybody should be brown, looking black and so-called black and so-called brown. I mean so-called black, dark brown, different shades of brown, woolly hair, curly hair, afro hair, wavy hair, whatever. That's how it should have been if it was the truth. All right, we're the real Eternals. We're gonna have Eternia. We're gonna have all that. But Esau's got YOLO. You only live once. So they're gonna push this kind of spirit. You only have one life to live, so live it without worrying about what others may think. You know, they want to live in their shell of lies. We know that, yeah, we're the real kings of the world. Yahweh Shemeshai are melanated powers. You know, um, we're the kings of the world, right? But Esau's going to say, no, in our book, we're the kings of the world because we changed everything and the world's in our grip at the moment, so we don't care what you think. And we got one life to live. We're going to live it with pomp and fake valor, and rule over you, ninjas, while we can. That's why they push that spirit. But we got eternal, man. We're the real Eternals. We got forever, man. All right? Okay? And we come back again and again and again, man. Let's go to a couple of scriptures, man. Yeah, let's go to YOLO here. You only live once. Sounds like a James Bond movie. I think there was one actually. Second Ezra 14:35. For after death shall the judgment come, when we shall live again. And then shall the names of the righteous be manifest, and the works of the ungodly shall be declared. Okay? For, once you die, judgment comes, and you live again. You come back on planet Earth, in a recycled body. Now, in one lifetime, you're probably like 7 feet tall, swole, comely Jake, but you were evil as F, dealing with married women on purpose, and you was wrong, but you're still doing it because, women, you were the shit women are chasing you down, running you down and shit, even if they were married, you know, and you couldn't help yourself. You knew it was wrong, you know. You were so comely and that you can get any woman you wanted. That's single, of course, but you had to do this, you know, foul-ish, you know, or you're probably a murderer or whatever. You know, I'm just thinking up possible scenarios. And then you come back in the next life and you're in a wheelchair, man, you're hideous, and you can't get not one damn woman. You know? The Lord does that, man. You know? Okay? Galatians 6, verse 7, you reap what you sow. There's no way around it. When the so-called white man pushes that YOLO spirit, you only live once, because they know their next trip in, you know, you know, they have a time limit. They have an expiration date to their rulership and their pomp and their fake valor. All right. And they always say one life to live is because they don't know that if they when their eyes ever open again after they die, they know that there's a higher power. They also know that, okay, Yahweh Shem Yashai can put them, you know, could make, you know, wake them up in a time which will be, they'll be in chains. They'll be, you know, when the kingdom is established, you know. So sometimes, you know, that's what their dread is. That's what their fear is. That's why the so-called elites are afraid to die. That's why they delete sports athletes and from high schools, and, you know, find them rolled up in carpets and shit with all their vital organs missing. Why? Because so and so individual from a banking family, you know, is in a certain hospital that's real high end, high class or whatever, right? And within that, you know, within a 20 to 30 mile radius, there's several schools, Ivy League schools or whatever, of healthy Judites, so-called black men, many, I mean, you know, all Israelites, but, you know, but they know that Judah, the head tribe, is the top tribe, so to speak, and they're gonna go for vital organs like hearts and lungs and shit like that, whatever they need, all right, because they know even with the garbage diet that they put in our neighborhoods, Jake is still that top tier, man. You understand? That's why they don't want to die, because they know that they have like many one life to live, where if they've got it all in that lifetime, they know that they might not have it again. And if they do come back again, they're going to be, you know, in somewhat, let's just say in one lifetime they were a slave owner, and this lifetime they basically just a manager of a firm of so-called blacks and Hispanics, you know. And but he's still got a happy life. Then he comes back again, and this time around he's a homeless bum. Each time his life gets less and less and less. The way we regressed as Israelites from 9, 10, 12 feet tall, swole, you know, to now about 5'11", 6 foot, or even shorter. You know, the way we regressed, right? But now we're progressing in the spirit. We're going to grow. We're going to become giants in the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashim Yashai. Yeah? The so-called white man is regressing in every single way. That's why they know when they have it, they only got it for a short time, but we got eternal, man. We're the real eternals, man. You know? No, I think I made the point on that one. Here we go. Hebrews 9:27. And as it is appointed unto men once to die, but after this the judgment. You know, you die, you go straight in front of the Lord, okay, where you get judged. You know, where there's a period of rest. As mentioned, 3 to 4 generations. You know, if all the Lord can make you. Let's go to that scripture. Actually, I just deleted it. Visiting the iniquity on the 3rd and 4th generation, King James Version. Exodus 34:7, keeping mercy for thousands, forgiving iniquity and transgression and sin, and that will by no means clear the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children and upon the children's children unto the 3rd and to the 4th generation. All right. So as for an Israelite, each time you come back, you're supposed to improve yourself. You know, if the Lord is working with you to improve yourself, man. You know, you know in the spirit. Okay. So you always come back. There's no escaping this, man. This clay that we're in, man, this fleshly body is powered by a spirit, man. All right? That's why Gad, the tribe of Gad, the so-called Native Americans, what did they used to say when they used to stand over a warrior's body that died in battle? They would touch his body and say, his fire has gone out. And what's the fire? That's the soul, man. Their body has gone cold. You know? He's not there anymore. Their warrior comrade, brother, is not in that body no more. He's there. He's in front of Yahweh Shem Shai. He's left. You know? We are made from the dust of the ground, right? Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. But they always come back again, man. You always come back again. All right? Because our kingdom's going to be for eternity, man. This kingdom's got an expiration date. The Lord is fair. The Lord gave everybody a chance to rule for a certain set time, man. Okay, you're going to rule this time. You're going to have your pomp and valor. You're going to have your fake valor. You're going to have concubines. You're going to have wealth. You're going to, you're going to look good or whatever. I don't know. Every nation had that. But it had a certain set period. Okay? So we go through our punishment also. The Lord used them as the whipping stick. Right? The heathen nations. The worst one being Esau, the so-called white man, of course. Yeah? But now our kingdom's coming. All right? Which is going to be eternal. Okay? Oh yeah, things that are seen that are unseen are eternal. The things that are unseen are eternal. King James Version. Yeah, 2 Corinthians 4:18. 2 Corinthians 4:18. While we look not at the things which are seen, the temporal kingdoms that are coming and going, but at the things which are not seen. Slakia. While we look not at the things which are seen, but at the things which are not seen. For the things which are seen are temporal, but the things which are not seen are eternal. Our kingdom is eternal, man. You're never going to go old. You're going to be young forever. They show it in these movies. They show little alternate world left-hand side versions where they use a scripture. For example, what was that movie? Out of Time? Was it In Time or whatever with the Justin Timberlake? Where the wealthy, right, all looked young and lived well and had everything perfect or whatever. I was on a left-hand side level where they're biting from the scriptures. Because in our kingdom, we're going to be, young forever, eternal. You're going to grow to a certain age where you look your best, whether that's 18, 21 or whatever on this side, you're going to look like that forever. All right? The laws, statutes and commandments in you. You're not going to put a foot wrong. You're going to have spiritual power. You're going to have children. You're going to enjoy your children, family. You're not going to shed a tear. Every day is going to be like you're waking up. First time ever in the kingdom, being born. It's going to feel like that. Because we're not going to have a bad day. You're not going to ever have a boring day. There's always going to be something to do because the Lord said, in His house are many mansions. The earth is always forever expanding, right? And that kingdom is going to be manifesting very soon because we are at the end of this thing. Isn't time going fast? And the Lord says He's going to speed up the time for the elect's sake. Isn't Esau scraping and scrambling, trying to get SHIT off, with these words and slogans in the air right now as we speak in May 2025? World War III, India, Pakistan, World War III, Ukraine, World War III, Russia, World War III, America, World War III. Now all these leaders are measuring their rod sizes. Who's got the biggest rod? I got this weapon, I got this one, and this will reach your back garden in your house, in your country within, I don't know, 22.3 minutes or something. Mine will get one in there, I don't know, in 21 minutes. I'm just coming up with numbers. This kingdom has an expiration date, man. All right. So you don't have to, Jake, you don't have to think like that, A lot of you Jakes, I guess, that have sold out are going to think like that because, man, whatever's planned for you, That's going to be specific, man. It's going to be real. Hey, the Lord's going to have something for you, man. For you Jakes out there that did stuff like that. Sold out. You know? So, Jake, man, our kingdom's eternal. All right? The gospel is a good news for us, for the hopeful elect. You shouldn't be in that spirit where upset. You know, you might be pissed off that we're still here. Yeah, I get it. You know, all the curveballs being thrown at you on a daily basis. But overall, man, you know that this is not forever, and you know the kingdom is coming. You can feel it. So you should be elated inside, especially with the name of Yahweh Hashem Yahshai, man. So our kingdom is eternal, man. All right? Snap out that YOLO spirit, especially you Jakes that are coming into this thing of ours, this thing of ours, you know, coined by Apostle Gabar there, you know, this thing of ours, you know. Anyway, I'm gonna leave it there, you know. So ultimately, all right, come to the conclusion, the so-called white man pushes the YOLO spirit. Why? Because they know their rulership is for a certain amount of time. And they also know about judgment. And they also know that if the Lord prolongs their, let's just say the Lord, doesn't let them come back on the planet Earth within third or fourth generation, the Lord can make you come back sooner or later. I'm just thinking out loud, because the Lord Yahweh Hashem can do whatever. When you come back fourth generation, there could be a point in time where you come back, you're in literal chattel slavery. They know that they have a short uh, divine master manifestation, or that has that manifestation, a divine version, has a part two, as Elder Malcolm would say. I would believe, our rulership is coming, man. So Esau pushes that spirit because they know that they don't have long, and they know that if they die and come back, they could be in chains or in a worse situation. That's why they push that YOLO spirit. With Jake, for the most part, doesn't really have that spirit, man. Jake just pretty much wants to live in peace. As long as the basics are taken care of, Jake is pretty much okay in that way. And he knows that, Jake always, for the most part, especially my generation, Gen X, they would, those that were born in the 70s, I believe, we always know that, okay, yeah, if you try and do better in this life, maybe the Lord will have mercy on you, come back in a better situation the next one. And also why Esau pushes this YOLO spirit is because they get happy of other people's misery. They get happy of other people's, even their own people. Esau likes to gloat and be happy of misery. They feed off that shit, of murder and theft and destruction. That's why they know that there's something called judgment. Whereas Jacob is not adverse against life, man. Jacob is for life, meaning that you're for flowers growing and roses growing and grass growing and letting animals roam free. So-called healthy way of life. Where Esau wants to chain and lock everything down and make everything artificial. That's another reason why Esau pushes that YOLO spirit, because they are against this world. If you're against this world, don't you think Yahweh Hashem is going to be against you? Even though the Lord has used you crackers and you heathen nations just to be a whooping stick, that's it. And your purpose is to be a whooping stick for the short duration. Our punishment is coming, which is now coming to an end. Okay, so therefore your whooping stick is going to be put down now, Esau and you heathen nations. All right, you are created to be servants, and you are going to be a servant and a slave forever. Okay, all right. The last shall be first, and the first shall be last. All right, we've always been last. Now we're going to be first. You devils are going to be last, man. Like crackers and you heathens, all the way, man, are going to be last. All right, so all praise to Yahweh Bashem Yashai, Bashem Rakak Wadash. Our kingdom is eternal. We're the real eternals. Shalom.